Hey, it's Shelley and welcome back. I want to start with a truth bomb. If you are constantly overcommitting, over-explaining or overthinking how other people will respond to the decisions you make, that's not being nice, that's people pleasing. And it's running your life more than you think. Now, I know that's a pretty harsh way to start an episode. And if it is resonating, which I have a strong feeling it will for so many, stick with me. This episode is not about shaming you if you are a people pleaser. It is about naming what's happening under the surface. It's raising awareness and giving you a way to take your clarity, your courage, your confidence back. 3 words I love: clarity, courage, and confidence. So many women label themselves as people pleasers and kind of just say, it's just the way I am, it's the way I've always been. People pleasing isn't a weakness, okay? It is a challenge and it's not helping you get to where you want to get to. But it isn't about being pathetic, because I actually have people say that to me sometimes: I'm so pathetic, I'm such a people pleaser. Absolutely not. It's a habit. And it's started very often as self-protection. But what happens is it turns into self-sabotage. And that's why I want to talk about it today. When I was thinking about subjects that I wanted to bring back to the podcast, things that I just know are so far from like one podcast can make the difference. People pleasing is one of the biggest challenges my clients, members of the She Is Courageous Collective, I face, because we all want to be liked. That's a basic human need. But there is a difference between wanting to be liked and acknowledging that basic human need and people pleasing that actually becomes self-sabotaging. So many women, okay? I know so many women who are incredibly smart, incredibly capable, known for being the one that sorts things out. But actually underneath it, they're just so busy trying to keep the peace that they take on those labels rather than really facing into what's really going on, which is people pleasing, sneaky people pleasing that's not helping. Now, this isn't just about saying yes too often. Yes, that is a big red flag for people pleasers. This is more about when we're holding back opinions because we don't want to rock the boat, when we're softening the delivery of what we do say so that we don't come off as too much, when we're offering help, not saying no when people ask for it, but actually offering it up even when we're exhausted. This is about when we stay quiet when something just feels so off because we're so worried about being the difficult one. Now, a lot of people will rationalize this and say, well, I'm just being kind. I'm just doing what needs to be done. But I'm going to be quite blunt with you right now and tell you that people pleasing isn't kindness. It's fear in a very flattering outfit. Because the truth of the matter is that more often than not, people pleasing is driven by fear. That is really saying, what will they think of me if I say no? What will happen if I disappoint them? What will happen if I don't do these things? It is fear of the consequences of putting ourselves first or just a little bit higher up the list. Now, people pleasing isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's very often about avoiding disconnection, because at the root of it, there is a deep fear that if we don't do what others want and need, we will be disconnected, almost rejected. And like everything that we do, particularly when we start self-sabotaging, it's wired into our survival system. Now, maybe when you were younger, there's lots of maybes about to come out, right? Because I'm talking to so many different people right now. But so many people with so many different background stories will resonate with people pleasing. So maybe when you were younger, as a child or in school, or even in your early career, you learned that being liked, being good, being agreeable was what got you praise, or what got you acceptance, or what brought a sense of safety. Maybe you learned that blending in made things smoother. Maybe you learn that keeping the peace is how you get approval. Maybe you learned that kind of swallowing your own needs was easier than being rejected. Maybe you watched the opposites of all of those. Maybe you saw people who stood up for themselves and were rejected. Maybe you saw people who went against the grain and got treated really badly for it. Because what happens is we see, we watch, we learn, we absorb, we learn, and we create patterns. And with people pleasing, it's very often very early on patterns that get rewarded. You know, kids are told to be seen, not heard, to do as they're told, that we should be respectful and do for others, and we get rewarded for those things. So those patterns, if they are deeply ingrained, if they've been rewarded over and over, we keep them because they worked until they didn't. And now maybe you find yourself here in adult life, running a business, but avoiding setting clear boundaries with clients for fear of the consequence of setting boundaries, for fear of being rejected. Maybe you're leading a team, but still apologising for have a strong opinion, for fear of. Maybe you're trying to grow your visibility in your business, but second guessing every single post. Maybe you're in a relationship where you want to speak up more, but you don't for fear of. Because that part of your brain still thinks, if I upset someone, I won't be safe. If I upset someone, if I rock the cart, is it rock the cart? Rock the boat, that's what it is, then I won't be safe. This might happen. And even though you're not actually in real danger, your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It reads discomfort as a threat. And that's why people pleasing feels like the right thing to do. People pleasers are not weaker than everybody else. And I think this is something that I want to just call out actually, because I do think that people pleasers start to tell themselves they're just not very strong. They haven't got a strong enough mindset, they're not strong enough characters. That is absolute BS. So if you have people-pleasing tendencies, it does not mean you are not strong. It does not mean you cannot have a stronger mindset. It's your brain choosing safety over truth. So I just want to be the person to say to you today, you are allowed to be honest even if someone else doesn't like it. You are allowed to say no even if it's inconvenient to others. You are allowed to choose you. You're allowed to choose alignment with what you believe, what you feel, what you want over the approval of others. But it's really easy for me to say those things. And even as I say them, I'm going to be really honest. Do I live by all of those 100% of the time? No, I want to. And I've got a pretty strong mindset. But sometimes I will still say what someone else wants to hear rather than what my inner voice is saying for fear of. Fear is really normal, and it's the number one thought process that holds us back, which is why we're all always working on it. But what I do want to do is give you some shifts, some ways to start breaking the habit of people pleasing. We can't rewire everything overnight, okay? I say this all the time. It's not about flicking a switch and suddenly everything's okay. What we do is we gently disrupt. Gently. Did you hear the way I said that? We gently disrupt. Awareness is the first step of change. Who has not heard me say that before? So what we need to do is build your awareness and make small self-led moves. You'll have heard me using that phrase quite a lot recently, self-led. This is where I really see courage ramping up in 2026, leading oneself. So I'm just going to give you maybe five or six ways that you can start to break the habit of people pleasing. I think I'm going to try and do this in an order, but we'll see how it goes, right? So first of all, you've got to notice that moment when you hesitate. Awareness is the first step of change, right? So you've got to notice that flicker where you pause and you think, will they be okay with this? Because that's your clue. Or if it gets past that, but you've got to notice whether there are certain people in your life that you always go with what they want over what you want. Start noticing that, because that's your conditioning showing up. I want us to get right into, where are you people pleasing at the detriment of you? Where is people pleasing becoming self-sabotage? So first of all, notice the moment that you hesitate, where you pause and you think, will they be okay with this? Or you have that moment of, I'll just go along with it because it'll be easier. That's your first clue. Then I want you to ask, what do I actually want here? I'm still not asking you to do anything with it yet. So you've got to notice it, and then you've got to ask yourself, what do I actually want? Not what keeps things smooth and happy and easy, not what looks good. What do you want? In that moment that you're realizing that you're more led by what they want, and you're actually in conflict in your mind because you want to say something else, but you worry they won't be okay with it. What is it that you want? Just asking yourself that question will bring you back into the room, so to speak. Because people pleasing can become so autopilot that we don't even realize that we're doing it. So notice it and then ask yourself, what do I actually want here? Then practice saying no without the essay. What I mean by that is you do not owe anyone an explanation. That doesn't work for me is complete. Now, I'm not going to tell you to stop being rude. I want you to be kind, but you don't have to over-explain. You can say, that really doesn't work for me right now. And if someone pushes you on why, you can say, I don't have to explain. I just want to be able to say safely, that doesn't really work for me. That doesn't really sit with what I wanted to do. Now you do need to, and this is my fourth tip for you, you do need to make peace with being misunderstood. You can be clear, kind, direct, you can say no, and you will potentially still be misread. It doesn't mean you're wrong. Let people have their reactions. You are not responsible for their reactions. You don't have to manage everybody else. This is about you learning to think about what you want and practice saying so. I'm not asking you to go for hell for leather like the minute you get off this podcast, people. I'm asking you to really start noticing and then just practice and make peace with the fact that not everyone will get it. In fact, if you've been doing this for a really long time, people are not going to get it if you start saying, actually, that doesn't really work for me. Actually, could we talk about a different way? Actually, what if we did this instead? Actually. Now, when it comes to practicing, what you could do is practice in your head first. That sounds really weird, right? I'm all for the action, but I know this isn't easy. So if you start to notice the moments where you hesitate and ask yourself, what do I actually want here? What you could do is start to practice, even if you don't do it immediately, start to practice, what do I want to say instead? What would I really like to say here? Because if you at least give yourself a chance to say that in your head, you are practicing. And soon it might feel more and more easy to say it out loud. Now, I want you to go for it. Of course I do. But I also appreciate this is not easy. But you've got to make peace with being misunderstood, which is why you don't have to over-explain. And then finally, do you know what? This week, just do something that prioritizes what you want over someone else's comfort. Say no to something small. Cancel something without the guilt. Honor your energy. You don't have to go all guns blazing. You don't have to go gung-ho. You just have to start being honest with yourself in order to start being honest with others. So if people pleasing is quietly running your life right now, it is time to disrupt the pattern. Start small, choose one small moment to be more honest. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be harsh. You just need to be kind and in integrity with you. Because the cost of people pleasing is you. You're not here to be some watered down version of someone everyone else approves of. You're here to achieve the things that you want for your life, your business, your family, for you. You are here to lead your life. No one else can do that for you. People can do that with you, but they cannot do it for you. You're here to own your voice. You're here to trust your gut. And that starts with being honest. So maybe this week, just notice. Ask yourself what you really want. Practice saying no. Be okay with someone else not liking the no and maybe being misunderstood. But do that one small thing anyway. I believe that you've got this. I believe that you can be truly courageous. The question is, do you?